Good morning. This is the second lecture to be recorded for my students who are taking vocabulary development. As for the first lecture that was recorded, I was so pleased with your feedbacks and your comments. That was really encouraging and supportive. As for today's lecture, it's going to be about the key adjectives. Let me share the screen with you so that we can go straight to the lecture. Okay. Academic vocabulary in use. Here we go. This is the book, and the key adjectives can be found on page 17. So let's go to page 17 and start our lecture. Okay, page 17. Okay, here we go. Key adjectives. For any adjective, it's useful to know whether it is typically followed by a specific preposition and whether it has any synonyms, adjectives with a similar meaning, or antonyms, adjectives of opposite meaning. So what does that mean? It means that whenever you come across an adjective, it will be a good idea to ask yourself if this adjective is a kind of the adjectives that are typically followed by a specific preposition or not, because some of the adjectives are followed by a specific preposition, others are not. So it would be a good idea to ask yourself if it is kind of a typical adjectives that would be followed by a specific preposition. So and it would be a good idea as well to see if it has any synonyms, because adjectives usually would have synonyms. Okay, by saying synonyms, we are talking about the same meaning. So adjectives with the same meaning. So like the word happy, for example, is an adjective. Okay, so by looking for the synonyms of happy, we can find words like, or we can find adjectives like pleased, delighted, glad. So like, okay, if we try to put it in an example, so let's say that you are a teacher and you ask your students to submit an assignment, and after a couple of days, when this assignment was done, you were very happy, very pleased with their performance. So you were very happy, you were very pleased with the performance, because they've done their homework or their assignment in a perfect way. So you are very pleased, you are very happy. So the happy or pleased is a synonym of the word happy, the adjective. However, when it comes to the antonym, adjectives of opposite meaning. So it's not like the synonym, rather it is the opposite. So we were talking about the word happy, and it has the synonym of like pleased, to be pleased of something, or to glad, delighted. Okay, when it comes to the antonym, it's the opposite. So what's the opposite of happy? Sad. So let's go back to the same example of your students and the kind of homework or assignments that they had to submit, and that was done perfectly when and that would make you feel happy and pleased. However, let's say that we've got two students who didn't do the assignment in the way that you had expected. So this would make you feel what? Sad, right? This would make you feel sad and upset. Look at the word sad and upset. These two words, adjectives, and they are the antonym of happy, right? Okay, so these are the antonym of the word happy. So so it will be a good idea whenever you come across an adjective to see its synonyms and its antonyms, as well to ask yourself if it is a kind of a typical adjective that's been followed by a specific preposition. Okay, hopefully this was understood. Let's go to A now, adjectives and prepositions. Here are some extracts from academic texts with adjectives followed by to or of. Okay, let's see what's it about. Language development is conceived as relative to one's own past performance or relative to that of others. Again, language development is conceived as relative to one's own past performance or relative to that of others. So let's look at the adjective here and the preposition that comes after it. So by looking at the extract, we can find the adjective relative, okay, and this adjective was followed by the preposition to. Okay, so and I want you to notice the small number that was written above the word relative. Okay, we need to track this number and go down where the same number can be found, so that it would give us the definition of that word. So, for example, so we're talking about relative to, right? Relative, and there is number one above it, right? A small number was written above the word relative. By searching for the same number, which is number one, we can find the definition of relative to. So by tracking the numbers, the definition of the word can be found, okay? Look at number two here. So number two here, right? By tracking number two, we can find number two here. This would give us the definition of relevant to, okay? Which is connected with what is happening or being discussed. We will see that, okay? We'll see that. So just I'm giving you the idea to show you how this book was organized. I mean, when it comes to the numbers that have been written above the words, so that we need to track them, so that the definition of these words can be found. Okay, so language development is conceived as relative to one's own past performance or relative to that of others. Relative to, it means what to a particular degree when it is being compared with other things. Relative to, so it's relative to when we say true to a particular degree, it means what it means. It's true, but it's not kind of true 100%, because it says true to a particular degree. So if we have a scale, let's say from 0 to 100, so let's say it's true 70%, okay, something like 70%, 80%, okay, because it's true to a particular degree. So we need to keep that in mind. Okay, so true to a particular degree when it is being compared with other things. This is the meaning of relative to. So whenever you come across the word relative, and this relative was followed by the preposition to, so this is the meaning of it. True to a particular degree when it is being compared with other things. All right. This is for the first extract. As for the second extract, how can we make science relevant to environmental policy? This is a question, okay? How can we make science relevant to environmental policy? Good communication between scientists and politicians is characteristic of the situation today. All right. How can we make science relevant to? Okay, what do we care about is the adjective and the preposition that comes after it, okay? As for this sentence, or this extract, we can find two adjectives, actually, not one. And both of them were followed by a preposition. The first, which is relevant to, was followed by the preposition, the adjective relevant, and it was followed by the preposition to. And the second one is what? The second one is characteristic, and it was followed by the preposition of. All right. So when it comes to the definition of relevant to, is what connected with what is happening, connected with what is happening, or being discussed, connected with what's happening or being discussed, relevant to. So, okay, I'll give you an example that to see if this can be explained. Okay, so let's say that we've got people that were talking about politics, and one of them he was sitting with them, yet he would jump in to talk about sports. Okay, he would say something like the match between let's say Manchester United and Newcastle was a good one. So they were talking about politics, and he was talking about sports and the match between Manchester United and Newcastle or Liverpool or whatever. So this has nothing to do with politics, right? So it's not relevant to politics. What is being said by this person is not relevant with the topic that being discussed by those people. But they were talking about politics, and he was talking about a match between two teams. Okay, so relevant to is not relevant to. All right, so relevant to connected with what's being, with what is happening or being discussed. Okay, so how can we make science relevant to environmental policy? Poor communication between scientists and politicians is characteristic of the situation today. Characteristic of, it means what? It means typical of, and this rather formal. It is formal, typical of, okay, characteristic of. And if you remember the first lecture, we come across this word, which is characteristic. I guess it was on page 11. Very quickly, let's go to page 11. The first lecture, just to refresh your memory about characteristic when we had to talk about it. Okay, this is the first lecture. What's special about academic English? And we come across the word characteristic. Okay, and yes, this is the characteristic of, and typical of, yeah. Typical of, we discussed that, we said that it is a neutral word. It's a neutral. However, when you want to sound more formal, then you are going to use characteristic instead of typical of. So when you want to sound more formal, characteristic of is the word or the term that can be used instead of typical of. So let's go back to page 17. Okay, and go back to key adjectives. Okay, so we said characteristic of, meaning typical of. Okay, that was the second extract. Let's go to the third. Some of the responses to the questionnaire were specific to young male respondents. Others were common to all the respondents. Okay, what does that mean? So it talks about a questionnaire, right? Some of the responses to the questionnaire were specific to young male respondents. So here it means what? It means someone, let's say that someone was conducting a study, or he's doing a research, okay? He would need to have a questionnaire, okay? And this questionnaire should be handed out to certain people where they can, give their what do they think about certain questions? Okay, they would answer the questionnaire and then give it back to that person. So some of the responses to the questionnaire were specific to young respondents. So it means the questionnaire has two parts. Let's put it in this way. It has two parts. The first part was mainly for young respondents, and for the second part of the questionnaire was common to all the respondents. Young male respondents. So the first part is specifically for the ones who are between, let's say, 18 and 25, young, and should be male and not female respondents. Okay. As for the second part of the questionnaire, there's no need for, it wouldn't be about the gender, and the age is not a problem. So it's common to everyone. Okay. However, this is not our topic to discuss it, but just I want just to give a a quick explanation about these 3 lines. What do I care about is the adjective specific to. Specific is the adjective, and it was followed by the preposition to. So specific to, let's go to number 4. Only found in. So this is the meaning of specific to. Only found in. Okay, so this is the meaning. Specific to young male respondents. Others were common too, and this is number 5. Again, common. Common is an adjective, and to is a preposition. So it's a kind of an adjective that's been followed by a preposition. So common to. So number 5, common to. It means what? It means belonging to or shared. Belonging to or shared by 2 or more people or things. So belonging to or shared by 2 or more people. Okay, so this is common. So it's not like the one that was specific. Specific, it means it's mainly for this individual or that individual. Like when you want to ask someone about his name or her name, what's your name? This is a specific question. So also it's about the name. So it is specific. However, when a question like how did you spend your weekend, when you are asking your students, this is a common question. So it's a common question. It's not like what is your name. So what is your name is specific, but how did you spend your weekend? It's common. So you know the difference now between these 2 adjectives. All right. Okay, we've got the last extract. We need to plan technologies which are appropriate to the needs of small farmers. It was typical of the farmers in the study that they had a negative attitude to technology. Okay, so again, we need to plan technologies which are appropriate to the needs of small farmers. It was typical of the farmers in the study that they had a negative attitude to technology. All right, so where is the adjective in here? Appropriate, and it was followed by to, which is the preposition. Appropriate to. Appropriate to is an adjective that's been followed by a preposition to. So what does it mean, appropriate? What does it mean? Suitable or right for a particular situation or occasion. Suitable or right for a particular situation or occasion. Appropriate to. So an example for this, the opposite of appropriate is inappropriate. So especially when someone would use inappropriate language when he if he wants to discuss something or to have a strong debate or argument with someone, so he might use this kind of an inappropriate language with him or her. So it means what the type of language that's being used by this person was not suitable or was not right. This is inappropriate, okay? Or appropriate, suitable, or right for a particular situation or occasion. All right. Hopefully, this was clear. Let's go to B now. Adjectives and the opposites. Adjectives and the opposites. Look at this abstract from a dissertation on drug abuse. Okay, so this is a dissertation, and it is about what? It is about drug abuse. Okay, look at this dissertation. Look at this abstract from a dissertation on drug abuse. In most cases, you can work out the meanings of the opposite, which follow each numbered adjective based on the definition. Okay, so we have a dissertation, and it talks about drug abuse, and they tell us that in many cases, or most cases, we can work out the meaning of the opposite adjectives. So it means what? It means that there's an adjective that was given to us, and by reading the whole sentence, we can understand the opposite meaning of the adjective. So in most cases, you can work out the meaning of the opposites, okay, which follow each numbered adjective. So each adjective has a number that was written above it, just like the ones that we have seen in these four extracts. Okay, let's go back a little bit to when it comes to the numbers that were written above these adjectives, relative to, we can say number one, or relevant to number two, or characteristic of number two. So these are numbers that were written above these adjectives so that we can track them and to find out the definition and the meaning of these adjectives. So it's going to be the same here with this dissertation, and it was given to us, and with many adjectives, and each adjective there has a number so that we can track this number so that the definition of that specific adjective, the definition of it can be found. All right, so let's start by reading this dissertation and track these adjectives and these numbers to know the meaning of them. Okay, we cannot discuss the drug abuse as an abstract problem without considering concrete examples of abuse and their social consequences. Okay, so we cannot discuss drug abuse as an abstract problem. We cannot discuss drug abuse as an abstract problem without considering concrete examples of abuse and their social consequences. All right, let's stop here at the full stop. By looking at this sentence, we can find out two adjectives here. Okay, but this time, these two adjectives, abstract and concrete as well, is an adjective which is the opposite of abstract. But this time, these adjectives were not followed by a preposition. Okay, so here we're not talking about an adjective that's being followed by a preposition, but that was with section A. Okay, if we in section A, we can see that where is that? I'm sorry for this. Let's go back. Okay, yeah, adjective. In section A, we can see that it was talking about adjectives that have been followed by a preposition, and we have seen a large number of these adjectives, 6 adjectives. Okay, relative to, relevant to, characteristic of, specific to, common to, appropriate to. So all of them were followed by to, except for characteristic, which has been followed by of instead of to. Okay, that was section A. When it comes to section B, it talks about adjectives, but it's not our topic that these adjectives were followed by a preposition. Rather, we are talking about the adjective and its opposite. Okay, so like concrete, abstract and concrete. So here it talks about we cannot discuss the drug abuse as an abstract problem without considering concrete examples of abuse and the social consequences. Okay, let's try and look at the number 1 here above abstract. By tracking this number, we'll find the definition of abstract to know that it means existing as an idea, not as existing as an idea, not as a material object. So this is the meaning of abstract. So existing as an idea. When someone tells you that I have an idea, so I have an idea. Compare this with another person would tell you I have a mobile phone. I have a mobile phone. So comparing the first one with the second one, we'll find out that the first one, it talks about an abstract. idea is a kind of an abstract. I mean, it has never been existed in a form that can be seen, like here the opposite, existing in a form that can be seen or felt. Okay, so when we say I have an idea, idea is not something concrete, it's not something that was existed in a form that can be seen or felt. Okay, so it's not like a mobile phone. So if someone said that I have a mobile phone, so this mobile phone is existed in a form that can be seen and felt. Okay, so you can see it, you can use it, you can take it somewhere with you. It's not like an idea. An idea, it cannot be seen, it cannot be felt, it cannot be taken anywhere. It's not like something that you can put in your pocket, like a mobile phone, for example. Okay, so something abstract, like happiness, for example, like happy. Happy is an adjective, of course, but the noun of happy is happiness. Okay, happiness is an abstract. So you can be happy, but still people cannot see this happiness. I mean, it's not like a mobile phone that you can get out of your pocket so that you can give it to others. You can be happy, but still it's an abstract. Okay, it cannot be seen, or it's not like a table, for example, that you can take from this place and put it somewhere else. I mean, okay, I guess now by giving all these examples, the difference between abstract and concrete is clear. Okay, so again, abstract existing as an idea, not as a material subject. Concrete, which is the opposite of abstract, existing in a form that can be seen or felt. Okay, all right. We cannot discuss drug abuse as an abstract problem without considering concrete examples of abuse and their social consequences. Abuse is rarely a simple issue. It usually results from a complex set of circumstances. Okay, so abuse is really a simple issue. Is usually results from a complex set of circumstances. All right, let's stop at the adjectives here. Okay, now we will find the second adjective here, simple. Okay, simple. Look at number 2 here. So we need to go to number 2 so that we can see the definition of symbol. So symbol, it means what? It means having or made of only one or two, one or few parts. So something symbol, when we talk, if we want to talk about the word symbol or the adjective symbol, so we're going to talk about having or made of only one or a few parts. Okay, like what? Like a wooden table. Okay, a wooden table. It can be made of wood. Okay, all what you need to make a table, a wooden table, is wood, right? Wood, so that you can put it in cut it in four pieces so that you can make these 4 legs of that table, and then to put the top of the table so that you will have a table. So it was made of wood. So it's something very simple to do. It's not like if somebody asks you to do or to make a car, for example. A car is something extremely difficult. It's something what complex, something complicated, something very hard to do. It's not like making a wooden table. As I said, a wooden table is very simple compared with making a car. So almost each one of us can make this kind of table. I mean, it wouldn't be nice or it wouldn't look good because we are not skilled or we are not proficient in making tables. It's not like a carpenter. However, we can make this simple table that has 4 legs and top of it, and that's it. But if somebody asks you to make a car, no one can do it, okay? Because it's extremely difficult. So this is the difference between simple and complex. Simple is something that having or made of only one or few parts. However, when it comes to complex, it's something which is made of a large number of parts. Let me put it in this way. Okay, So abuse is rarely a simple issue. It usually results from a complex set of circumstances. Both quantitative and qualitative research is necessary to gain a full picture of the situation. By combining research methods, we may obtain an accurate picture of the causes and results of abuse, in contrast with the inaccurate assessments, which often results from purely quantitative studies. A significant amount of fear and prejudice surrounds the notion of abuse, and the media have a role which also not insignificant in promoting such fears. The dissertation concludes that rough estimates of the number of drug addicts need to be made more precise by properly defining addiction. Okay, so we come across many adjectives here and we need to stop at them. Okay, so both quantitative and qualitative research. So quantitative is an adjective, and look at the number that's been written above it. Quantitative and qualitative research is necessary to gain a full picture of the situation. The meaning of quantitative based on numbers and statistics. Based on numbers and statistics. The opposite of the quantitative is qualitative. Qualitative is the opposite of quantitative. Qualitative. So the opposite, which is the qualitative, usually research research using non-number based methods such as interviews, focus groups, etc. Okay, so this is the opposite of quantitative, which is qualitative. Okay, and both of these are adjectives. Okay, so both quantitative and qualitative research is necessary to gain a full picture of the situation. By combining research methods, we may obtain an accurate picture of the causes and results of abuse. In contrast with inaccurate assessments, which often results from a purely quantitative studies. Okay, a significant amount of fear. Significant is an adjective, okay, and we should track this number so that we know the meaning of it. A significant amount of fear and prejudice surrounds the notion of abuse, and the media have a role which is also not insignificant. So let's look at significant and insignificant. So the media have a role which is also not insignificant in promoting such fears. Okay, significant, which is number 4, important or noticeable. Important or noticeable. Significant, something which is significant, something which is important, okay, or noticeable. Okay, so all right, the dissertation concludes that rough estimates of the number of drug addicts need to be made more precise by properly defining addiction. Okay, so rough, it means this number 5, fairly correct, but not exact or detailed. Okay, this is the meaning of rough. Okay, rough as an adjective, it means fairly correct. So it means correct, but not 100%. It's fairly correct, but not exact or detailed. Okay, so this is, and the opposite of rough is what? Precise. So if rough means fairly correct, but not exact or detailed, precise means correct 100%, precise, okay, precise, and exact, precise and exact, okay. All right, So I hope that was clear, okay? C. Other important frequent adjectives and a typical combination with nouns. Okay, other important frequent adjectives and typical combination with nouns. Okay, let's see the first one, a combination of, okay, this is now a typical combination adjective with a noun. So adjective with a noun, a typical combination between adjectives and nouns, okay? There was an apparent discrepancy between the two sets of results. There was an apparent discrepancy between the two sets of results. So, okay, so we are here talking about a typical combination between an adjective which is apparent and a noun which is discrepancy. A typical combination between an adjective and a noun. So there was an apparent discrepancy between the two sets of results. An apparent, look at number 1 here. So it means what? Seeming to exist or be true. Seeming to exist or be true. Okay, so this is apparent. The word or the adjective and apparent. Okay, seeming to exist or be true. Okay, and there was an apparent discrepancy between the two sets of results. Okay, let's look at the second combination, adjective with a noun. We noted a potential problem with the experimental design, which we had to deal with first. We noted a potential problem with the experimental design, which we had to deal with first. Okay, so what do you think about the combination or the typical combination between an adjective and noun in this sentence? So where's the adjective here? Is the potential is the adjective, right? And the noun is a problem. Problem is a noun, okay? But potential is an adjective. So it's a kind of a typical combination between an adjective and a noun. So we noted a potential problem with the experimental design, which we had to deal with first. Potential problem number 2, and we need to check number 2 to see what the definition of potential is. All right. Potential, possible when the necessary conditions exist. Possible when the necessary conditions exist. So this is the meaning of potential, something possible, okay? Possible, however, when the conditions or certain conditions were existed. Okay, that was the second example. As for the third example of typical combinations between the adjectives and noun is, and the principal cause of the failure was a sudden temperature change. The principal cause of the failure was a sudden temperature growth. So the adjective, where's the adjective? Here is principal. Principal is an adjective. And where is the noun? Here is, the noun is cause. Cause is a noun, okay? Principal is an adjective. So it's a kind of a typical combination between an adjective and a noun. So the principal cause of the failure was a sudden temperature change. Okay, and number 2 can be tracked to find out the definition of principle first in order of importance. First in order of importance. So principle is a first when it comes to the order of importance. Okay, the last example that we have is the research used rigorous methodology which had been tested on many occasions. Okay, the research used a rigorous methodology which had been tested on many occasions. Okay, another example of a typical combination between an adjective and a noun. So rigorous is an adjective and methodology is the noun. So a rigorous methodology. So let's look at number 4 here, so that we can see the definition of rigorous. Careful to look at or consider every part of something to make certain it is correct. So rigorous meaning careful to look at or consider or consider every part of something to make certain it is correct. Okay, so by looking at this example, I guess we have done with the lecture with the C section. The last thing that we have here is a kind of a note or a piece of advice. Remember to say typical of, not typical for. So you never say typical for, it's typical of, okay? Learn adjectives with the prepositions that often follow them, as in a. So, and it tells you that you have to learn these adjectives that can be followed by a preposition. Okay, any adjective that can be followed by a preposition, you have to know it. This is very helpful. This is very helpful. Okay, so let's go to the exercises to see how these exercises can be answered. All right. 4.1. Look at A. Correct the preposition errors in these sentences. Correct the preposition errors in these sentences. So we've been given 6 sentences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sentences were given to us, and in each sentence, the preposition was not correct. So this is what should be corrected, the preposition. So correct the preposition errors in these sentences. So let's start with the first sentence to see, to search for the preposition that should be corrected, okay? A lengthy discussion of the advantages of solar power is not relevant with an essay that requires you to focus on wind turbines. Okay, again, a lengthy discussion of the advantages of solar power is not relevant to an essay that requires you to focus on wind turbines. All right, so what do you think about the preposition that should be corrected in this sentence? A lengthy discussion of the advantages of solar power is not relevant. It's not relevant with or is not relevant to. Let's go back a little bit to see the adjective relevant to find out if it is relevant to or relevant or relevant with. It is relevant to, right? It is relevant to. So this is what should be corrected. This is what should be corrected. So it is not with, it is to. So the sentence becomes a lengthy discussion of the advantages of solar power is not relevant to an essay that requires you to focus on wind turbines. Okay, that was number 1. Number 2, it is typical to discuss. It's typical to the disease for it to start with an itchy rash. It's typical to the disease. It's typical to the disease for it to start with an itchy rash. So we need to search for a preposition, and this preposition should be corrected. So what do you think about this? So what do you think about it is typical to the disease for it to start with an itchy rash? So where's the preposition here that should be corrected? It is typical. Is it typical to or typical of? It must be typical of. It is typical of the disease for it to start with an itchy rash. Okay, so it's typical of, not typical to. All right, that was number 2. 3, the methodology is not appropriate about the kind of research you are planning. The methodology is not appropriate about the kind of research you are planning. So what does that mean? Or where's the preposition that should be corrected in this sentence? This methodology is not appropriate about the kind of research you are planning. So what do you think? So where's the preposition here? About, okay, about is the preposition that was not correct, okay? This preposition is not correct. It shouldn't be appropriate about, appropriate to, and appropriate to, and all this can be found by going back to what's being discussed. What's being discussed? Appropriate to, okay? Appropriate to is not appropriate about, appropriate to, okay? So this methodology is not appropriate to the kind of research you are planning. For the use of original metaphor, the use of original metaphors is characteristic from the writer's style. The use of original metaphors is characteristic from the writer's style. So again, we have a preposition here that must be corrected. What do you think? Where is it? The use of original metaphors is characteristic from. I guess from is not right. Okay. When we had to discuss about characteristic, what did we say about it? What did we say about the this adjective characteristic? And it was followed by what? Characteristic of what? Characteristic was followed by characteristic of. Look at characteristic of. Okay, characteristic of is not characteristic. Yeah, it is characteristic of. This is a preposition that an adjective. Characteristic is the adjective that's been followed by of as a preposition. It's not like the example here, a characteristic form. It's characteristic of. So the sentence becomes the use of original metaphors is characteristic of the writer's style. Okay, that was number 4. Number 5. Relative with the previous attempts to explain the phenomenon, this interpretation is quite persuasive. Okay, so relevant. So relative with the previous attempts to explain the phenomenon, this interpretation is quite persuasive. Again, we need to look at the preposition, which should be replaced with the right one. So what do you think? It is relative with, it's not with right, it's not with, by going back, so we'll find out that it's not with relative, is not, yeah, relative to, relative to. So it is relative to, all right? So it is relative to, okay? Relative to is not relative with, relative to. So it becomes relative to previous attempts to explain the phenomenon. This interpretation is quite persuasive. Number 6, the last one. The dark hair and eyes are common for all people from the region. Again, the dark hair and eyes are common for all people from this region. So where is the preposition here that should be corrected? The dark hair and eyes are common for all people from the region. So for is not right, okay? For is not right. So it's not the right preposition, okay? So it becomes by by correcting this sentence, it becomes the dark hair and eyes are common to all people from the region. Common to, not common for, common to. Okay, the dark hair and eyes are common to all people from the region. 4.2, rewrite each sentence using the opposite of the adjective in italics. Okay, so we need to rewrite each sentence by using the opposite of the adjective in italics. So 5 sentences were given to us, and in each sentence we can find an adjective, and this adjective was written in italics. But we need to search for the opposite adjective. We need to search for the opposite adjective and replace it with the one that's being given to us. Okay, Carlson, this is number 1. Carlson checked the figures and agreed with me that they were accurate. Again, Carlson checked the figures and agreed with me that they were, what's the opposite of accurate? It is inaccurate, inaccurate. So we need to replace the accurate with inaccurate, okay? Carlson checked the figures and agreed with me that they were inaccurate. That was number 1. Number 2, the solution to the problem is a simple one. The solution to the problem is a simple one. So here, a symbol was written in italics. So this is the word or the adjective that should be taken away and replaced with something opposite. Okay, and be replaced with something opposite. So the solution to the problem is a complex one. So you should remember when we had to explain the difference between complex and simple, the example of making a table and making a car. Making a table can be easy and simple task. However, when it comes to making a car, this is something complex and complicated. Okay, so the solution to the problem is what? The solution to the problem is a complex one. This is the opposite of simple, complex. The opposite of simple. Okay, so here's simple, which is number 2. Simple, complex is the opposite of it. Complex is the opposite of simple. Okay. So the solution to the problem is a complex one. Number 3, make rough conclusions before you begin to write up your results. Make rough conclusions before you begin to write up your results. Rough written in italics, so it means this one should be corrected. This word or this adjective should be corrected, and it should be the opposite of rough. Okay, make rough conclusions. Make rough calculations. Sorry, make rough calculations before you begin to write up your results. Okay, so what do you think about the word rough here? What do you think about the word rough? How this word can be replaced with the opposite? What is the opposite of rough? Precise. I guess precise. Rough is like tough. So almost the same meaning. Rough, tough. That's why here rough. Okay, the dissertation concludes that rough estimates of the number of drug addicts need to be made more precise. Rough and precise. So precise is the opposite of rough. Okay, precise is the opposite of rough. However, here they didn't give us the word. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, rough. Yeah. So rough should be replaced with precise. Okay. Okay, so it's precise, not rough. I make precise calculations before make precise calculations before you begin to write up your results. 4, the Army played a significant role in events. The Army played a significant role in events. So by looking at this sentence, we will find out the significant is the one that's been written in bold, not written in bold, sorry, in italics. It's been written in italics so that we can see that this is the one that should be replaced with the opposite. This is the word or the adjective that should be replaced with its opposite. So the Army played a significant role in events becomes the Army played an insignificant role in events. Okay, the Army played an insignificant role in events. Okay, the last one, Hernandez prefers to discuss ideas in abstract terms. Hernandez prefers to discuss ideas in abstract terms. So what does that mean? So someone his name Hernandez, and he prefers to discuss ideas in abstract terms. So what's the abstract is that it's been written in bold. So it's written in italics, and this one should be replaced with its opposite. So what's the opposite of abstract? Concrete. The opposite of abstract is concrete. So Hernandez prefers to discuss ideas in concrete terms. Okay, 4.3. Make the adjective on the left with the noun it often combines with on the right. Again, make the adjective on the left with noun it often combines with on the right. Match. We need to match. Match the adjectives, okay? So it's a kind of matching, okay? So what do you think about number one? How this can be done, okay? How can we match number one apparent with which one of these four options is the right one? Is it apparent methodology or apparent problem or apparent discrepancy or apparent cause? It is apparent discrepancy. It's apparent discrepancy. And by going back to the first page, we can see that there was an apparent discrepancy. An apparent discrepancy. So this is the combination, a typical combination of an adjective and a noun, a typical combination of an adjective or an adjective and a noun. So apparent. So apparent here. Sorry. Okay. So apparent goes with discrepancy. Okay. Apparent discrepancy. Number two, rigorous methodology. Rigorous methodology. Okay. Principal cause, and potential problem. Okay, it's a potential problem. 4.4. Now use one of the combinations from 4.3 to complete these sentences. Okay, we need to use one of the combinations from 4.3 to complete these sentences. Okay, there is an in your figures. There is an what? So how this can be done? There was an apparent discrepancy, right? There was an apparent discrepancy in your figures. So that was number one. Number two, management's refusal to listen to the workers' demands was of the riots. Management's refusal to listen to the workers' demands was the principal cause of the riots. Principal cause of the riots. Okay. So this is the principal cause. Okay. Number 3. Lamarck devised what? Lamarck devised, which has since been used successfully by many other researchers in the field. So Lamarck, what? Lamarck devised a rigorous methodology. Lamarck devised a rigorous methodology which has since been used successfully by many other researchers in the field. Number 4, we spotted what? We spotted a potential problem, right? We spotted a potential problem with our procedure, and so we changed it in 2 areas. We changed it in 2 areas. Okay, so we spotted a potential problem with our procedure, and so we changed it in 2 areas. Okay. 4.5. 4.5. Choose the best adjective from the box to complete these sentences. Choose the best adjective from the box to complete these sentences. Qualitative, complex, potential, rigorous, specific. Okay. So what do you think about number 1? The plant is difficult to grow and needs conditions to survive. So what do you think about number 1? The plant is difficult to grow and needs very specific and needs very specific conditions to survive. So the sentence becomes the plant is difficult to grow and needs very specific conditions to survive. Number 2, his tutor was critical of his work for not being enough. His tutor was critical of his work for not being what? For not being qualitative enough, for not being complex enough, for not being potential enough, or for not being rigorous enough. It is rigorous enough, okay? The tutor was critical of his work for not being rigorous enough, okay? Number 3, in the past, the northern tribes looked on the tribes of the south as enemies. Again, in the past, the northern tribes looked on the tribes of the south as potential enemies. Okay, this is the right word or the right expression or the right adjective that must be used in 3. Okay, in the past, the northern tribes looked on the tribes of the south as potential enemies. Okay, that was number 3. Number 4, we chose approach to our research and interviewed individuals personally. Again, we chose, what did we choose? We chose what? We chose qualitative. We chose a qualitative approach to our research and interviewed individuals personally. Okay, the last one, the last thing that we have is Number 5, a set of circumstances led to a civil war in 1897. Okay, so what do you think about this word? Set of circumstances. Okay, what do you think about this word? So, what do you think about this word? The right word that can be used for it is what? Complex. A complex set of circumstances led to a civil war in 1897. Again, a complex set of circumstances led to a civil war in 1897. So that was the last thing for today. Before leaving, let's see this piece of advice. Following up, when you come across any of the key adjectives from this unit in your reading, note it down in a phrase so you build up a set of useful phrases using the adjective. Okay, so this can be seen as a piece of advice. So thanks for watching and listening, and I hope this lecture was useful. And if you have any comment, any question that has to do with what's being given in this lecture, please let me know by writing your comments on our page on Facebook, the page of vocabulary development for students from 10 to 12, or the other page, which is for our students from 12 to 2. So both of them for vocabulary development, and I will be pleased to read your comments to know to what extent these recordings were beneficial. Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.